Alright, hello, welcome to my UFC 226 and Tuf Finale Recap. Today is the 9th of the 7th, 2018. I've done fuck all preparation because this week is hectic for me, so a bit of housekeeping. I moving house this week and also working, you know, fucking life. So juggling everything, and which means I imagine I will get a picks video up for UFC Boise, but if I don't, yeah, that's why. But I'm gonna attempt to anyhow. I imagine I should be able to, but might be late in the week, maybe even the day before or something. We'll see what happens, but I'll do my best. What else? A few people have asked me about what's the thing? Time marking the videos. So writing in the points at which I start talking about which fights. Not an option for me at the moment due to time constraints, but I may look into it. Other thing is, I think we have a tornado warning here, and it just looks like the storm was beginning to set in now, so we may get heavy rain, even hail, or my roof may come off. So I'm going to try and speak louder than last time this happened so people can hear what the fuck I'm saying. Yeah. Like I said, I haven't done much preparation. Fuck, I don't even have a drink, which I need. Excuse me. But there's obviously some major talking points, and I'll go through the cards and try and rip through them quickly, ignore the insignificant and focus on the significant. What else? Might look into the comments as well. We'll see what we got there anyhow. I'll get to that at the end. But anyhow, I'm just going to try rip through this because this is probably going to be a long video. I don't want to waste people's time. So we'll start with the Tuf Finale. I was thinking about talking about DC first, but we'll do that at the end when I'm warmed up. Yeah, so let's get into the Tuf Finale card. Where are we? Was that the first fight? First fight, Gerald Meerschaert. Oh, my betting for the weekend. So I went ridiculous, and I was quite aware of that. I made over the weekend something like 10 straight picks, and then a bunch of parlays, and I got a prop bet and I won it. I picked Hooker by KO, so real happy to get a prop bet after losing a bunch. I'd kind of given up on them, but the morning of 226, especially after Israel's win, I was like, fuck, I think Hooker's gonna KO him. And shout out to Rockstar Z, who was heading me up with some really good reads on that fight. He had some real good insight into what was going to happen, and he called it, and it happened. And yeah, so happy to get my prop percentage not out of arrears yet, but we'll get there. So yeah, overall I was up over the weekend, just 1 unit, but I'll get into why I'm pretty happy with the weekend still, and most of my picks, like nearly all of them, I'm pretty happy with them. And I don't think they are bad picks. There was a couple that were bad, but I'll talk about them as I go through. Anyhow, Meerschaert versus Piechota. I picked Piechota. Came out, dominated round 1. I banked that bet in my mind, and then second round, fucking. Sorry, I was just checking it's recording. Second round, Meerschaert comes out and just turns the tables, and that was that. Gets the rear naked choke, and I was obviously gutted, and I was like, fuck, this could be a bad weekend. Never mind though. Next fight was Peterson versus Bissett. Can't remember what I thought of this fight. It was entertaining though. But yeah, I feel like I disagreed with the decision, but I can't recall. Never mind. Mitchell versus Tyler Diamond. Yeah, I think a lot of people were expecting Diamond to get that fight, but Mitchell looked good. Fought nice and tall, and yeah, kind of looked. He did that relatively easily, I thought. Good performance by him. Next fight, fucking abomination. I won't talk about it too much, but Gunther versus Zuniga. And I know this was the Tuf Finale card, but I was just watching it and thinking, man, this is the same weekend Cormier is fighting Miocic. Holloway is supposed to be fighting Ortega, like the highest level of fighting, and then you got Gunther and Zuniga fighting, and it was atrocious. If you watch the show, Zuniga is like living in Costa Rica and in poverty from what anyone could gather, and I was kind of hoping he would have a good performance, get some money, but he lost in a terrible fight, so never mind that. Next up, Luis Pena versus Richie Smullen. Guess that went pretty much the way people expected it. I wasn't betting Pena because he was such a heavy favorite, and then I think I've talked about it on here before, so there's a New Zealand betting site called TAB, and I never use it because typically they'll be paying 10 cents less than the other sites I use. So I just happened to check it out of curiosity, and I saw them with Pena paying $1.47 on there, and I was like, fucking hell. So I slapped 10 units, the biggest bet I've ever made on Pena, and he obviously came through, so really happy with that. Montana De La Rosa, good performance against Rachel Ostovich, getting the sub in the third round. Not a bad fight. It was entertaining, I thought. Next to the main card, so Alessio Di Chirico, versus Julian Marquez. So I had money on Marquez to win this. He came in overweight. That didn't bother me in terms of my bet. In fact, you know, the way things have been trending, that you would gain confidence in that. Marquez came out. Chirico, like, timed him a few times in that first round, but he was getting takedowns, and was the aggressor the entire fight, I thought. And yeah, Chirico did fuck all with his takedowns, and to me, just that whole fight, Chirico was surviving for the 3 rounds. He wasn't putting Marquez in any sort of danger. He didn't look bothered at any point, and I thought that decision was terrible, and I lost money on it, so I was fucking gutted. But yeah, poor judging, I thought. Bit of a robbery, and I lost money on it. So not upset with that bet. I thought I had a good read on the fight. What I said in my video last week was that Marquez gets tired and sloppy, but he remains dangerous, and I think he did that, and his gas tank looked better than usual. Maybe it was not doing the whole weight cut, but yeah, I thought he looked pretty good. Anyhow, never mind. So following Gunther versus Zuniga, next up we have Modafferi versus Honchak, which I thought was going to be much the same, very low level MMA, and they began standing, and I was like, oh man, can someone fucking finish this fight? But went to the ground. Modafferi looked really good there. Vicious ground and pound. Yeah, and she got Honchak out of there with dropping some elbows on her, so very good. Next fight, Caceres versus Bravo. In hindsight, probably a fight I should have bet, but once again, I thought Bravo got that fight. Caceres had, like, you know, he dropped Bravo, and he had him in some spots of danger, and probably had bigger moments in the fight, but it was just for a short time, I think in the second round there. And for the rest of the fight, I thought Bravo was doing more, landing more, getting takedowns, and doing so, landing strikes on the ground when he got the takedowns. I thought he did a lot more, and I thought that was a rough decision again. So, not super gutted with that pick. I thought my read on the fight was pretty good. But, yeah, I guess there's a lesson to be learned in that. And betting guys, we don't see the clearest path to victory, and you can't, like, he should win this fight. But, yeah, so maybe I shouldn't bet it, but never mind. But I felt a bit robbed by that again. Next fight, Katona beating Cuccinello. in a really, really wide decision. I Cuccinello looked really stiff out there, and if you had seen the week before the fight he won to get in the final, he looked nice and loose and was letting his shots go, beautiful counter uppercuts, and his boxing looked really good. And this, he looked super stiff and uncomfortable, and Katona just really fucking did a number on him. So yeah, well done to Katona. Like that dude, quite happy he won. And yeah, a win for SBG, a rare win that isn't a Conor McGregor win. So next up was Trezano versus Giannetti. I'd liked what I'd seen from Giannetti prior to this fight, and I was picking him to win. Didn't place any money on this fight, but I thought Giannetti was going to quite comfortably win it, and he looked like the much better fighter in there. I think they had a round apiece going into the final round, and then the final round, neither of them did fuck all, and it was pretty atrocious. And yeah, Trezano won split decision, and Giannetti just lost that fight for himself, I think. And so Luis Pena called him out afterwards, saying he wants to prove that he could have won that show, and I think he's absolutely right. Shame he wasn't in the final. So by this point, the card had been, well, it had its ups and downs, and yeah, it'd been long, so 6 fights on the main card, and we get to Adesanya versus Tavares. I was, at this point, I was real confident in Adesanya to win this fight, but I was just like, man, if he loses, this is going to be a shitty day. I'm going to feel garbage after this. So I was banking on Adesanya to close out the card well and kind of save it, I guess. And fuck, he did just that. I'll talk more about some thoughts I have on the City Kickboxing team after I talk about the Hooker fight. But Adesanya comes in, establishes range, throwing his strikes from range, and just really reading Tavares. Tavares had fucking nothing from, and it was like I thought. I think I was doing some tweeting prior to this fight, and people banking on Tavares to beat Adesanya were banking on him to fight a fight that we've never seen him fight before. And if you're banking on Adesanya, you were banking on him to fight the fight he usually fights. And yeah, I guess the concerns you could have were that last round of the fight against Vettori, and you've seen Adesanya's reactions to his first 2 fights, and you could tell he was not entirely happy with his performance, which indicates that he can do much more. And I think people from this part of the world that have been following him for a long time are kind of aware of that. We're like, he can do much more, and people haven't seen the half yet. And I think this performance, we got to see much more of what his game really is, and nice to see some flashes of grappling and going for subs. But yeah, just as I thought, Tavares was going to try some clinches, try some takedowns, and as Adesanya either evaded them or got up from the ground, which he didn't have to do till right near the end, he was just going to start piecing Tavares up, and he fucking did. Incredible performance, so incredible. And people can no longer question his legitimacy, I think, because he made Tavares look like he didn't belong there with him, and that's a top 8 guy who was ascending. So I think no matchups are really out of the question now for Adesanya. I personally like him versus Rockhold. I think he's a former title holder. I think he can beat Rockhold, and there's good name value in that fight for him. Don't mind Costa fight, or who else? I would personally like them to hold off Weidman for now. I like his chances of beating Weidman, but I want that to happen later when he's, because obviously his takedown defense and things of that nature are improving fucking rapidly. So I think a couple more fights until Weidman, if ever, because Weidman, fuck knows where Weidman will be by then. But man, you think about, after watching that, you think about Adesanya versus the two top guys, Whitaker and Gastelum, and those are hard fights to pick now. Like, I think I fancy Adesanya versus Gastelum, and against Whitaker, more to consider, but definitely a viable fight after that performance. He's shown that he's at the top level in that division. So that wraps up Tuf Finale. Huge for Adesanya. He got that bonus too. Fucking crazy. We'll move right into 226. First fight, Whitmar versus Jamie Moore. Weird fight to be on this huge card, and a little warm up, I guess. At least it wasn't somewhere in the middle or on the main event or something. And yeah, Whitmar getting the decision there, and then going off on her training partner, which was probably the highlight of that fight for me. And then her on the mic, it's quite good, and probably good for her name recognition and profile. Next up, Hooker versus Burns. So the morning of this fight, like I said before, I put straight bet on Hooker because the lines had changed. Same with Adesanya. I got him late when the line had shifted and got him at better odds. Same with Hooker. And then the prop bet for him to win by TKO. And Hooker came out, much like Adesanya, established range to begin with. He weathered some flurries from Burns. And yeah, it's like, so what I've seen, so these three performances over the last month from City Kickboxing guys, Shane Young, Adesanya, then Hooker, I would like to watch those fights over and over again and like kind of pick out more of what I'm seeing, but I'm definitely seeing a pattern in those fights where they come out, they establish range. I wish I could fucking watch their fights and hear their cornering, because I'd really like to know what Eugene Behrman is saying to them during the fight, because there seems to be this point, I don't know whether it's the fighter in the cage's instinct, but so they fight from range or throw their long strikes, leg kicks, jabs, that sort of thing, and then there's this point where because they're always dictating the range, and then there's a point in the fight where something happens or they see something in their opponent, and then they begin to close the distance further and engaging kind of mid-range or in the pocket, and they've all kind of done this, and they all seem to be executing a real similar game plan, but with different physical abilities and characteristics. So they have different weapons, but they're working off the same game plan. Super exciting. I thought Hooker was unlucky not to get a bonus, but there's obviously some great fights on that card. I liked his post-fight speech, where he is kind of like, give me people on my level, and I think he's right in saying that and deserves a big name opponent. Next, I saw Callum Potter, lightweight from Australia, saying on his Facebook he liked Hooker versus Pettis next, which I really like too, because I fancy Hooker versus Pettis, and that's former champion, big name value, and I think Hooker beats him. So I'd love to see that fight next. And they announced the schedule yesterday, and there's a UFC in Adelaide, Australia in December. I think I'm going to travel over for that, and I'm hoping to see a few City Kickboxing guys on that card. You got Shane Young, Adesanya, Hooker, and their 135er, Kai Cutter France, who has yet to make his debut, but is destined to. I would love to see him on that card. Yeah, so that's really exciting. Hopefully it happens in Adelaide. Moving on, Melinda versus Max Griffin. So I was real tempted to bet Griffin in this fight. And for the reasons that transpired in the fight, I thought he was really close to winning that. He could have done a little more and got the win there. He took Melinda down the first round, controlled him easily, and it was quite surprising he didn't go back to that during the fight. But ultimately, Melinda deservedly getting the unanimous decision. Don't think he looked as great as a lot of people were expecting, but he got the win, and I was glad I didn't bet that fight. Next up, Drakkar Klose versus Lando Vannata. Again, I was quite unsure about this one and stayed away from betting it, but I think I had picked Lando, and Drakkar Klose came out and fought a much better fight than I think we've seen him fight previously. What I had thought, looking back at Klose's other fights with guys that stay on the outside and move around, really frustrate him. He had game planned to not allow for that on this occasion, and he was doing a real good job of especially timing Vannata on the spin when he would attack with spinning attacks, and Griffin would time him with the right hand. Quite incredible, I thought. I haven't really seen many people do that before. Like, he seemed to be getting it almost every time. So a real good win for Drakkar Klose there. Next fight, Assunção versus Font. I had money on Assunção, and it pretty much played out as I expected it to. Assunção, but I actually expected Font to give him a bit more trouble than that, but Assunção just handled him, man. Like, he's an incredible fighter to watch because he just controls the fight. He seems so aware of what is happening and the scoring and winning rounds. Quite an incredible ability, and it's quite, I think, you maybe wouldn't call it fan friendly, but if you know what you're watching or kind of have an idea of what you're watching, I'm not saying I'm an expert, but quite incredible to watch. And he gets another decision, and then I saw him talking to Dana White. Does he get the title shot? And I don't think he's getting a title shot, which is unfortunate for him because it would appear Marlon Moraes is ahead of him for a title shot, and he recently beat Moraes, but you know, Moraes got those knockout wins, which ascends you. So yeah, it's hard not to feel sorry for Assunção because he's just been doing his thing for a fucking long time, and he's perhaps not getting the rewards or recognition he deserves. Next fight, fucking way more entertaining than I had anticipated. Paulo Costa versus Uriah Hall, winning in the second round TKO. I think Hall fought better than we've seen him fight in a long time, but I still think his temperament is a problem for him. He seems to get in his head and have trouble, and his jab is amazing, man. Like, so he was hurting Costa with the jab, and he was using it frequently, but it's as though, like, there'll be moments where Hall looks like he's winning the fight or has the weapons to win the fight, and then he'll wear a shot and it's like he goes back into his shell and retreats, and yeah, I just don't know about his temperament. But Costa bullying him to a victory, and that dude looks fucking scary, man. Matchup I'd like to see for Costa is him versus Yoel. That would be fucking incredible. I think you could main event that fight, and yeah, those two guys colliding, crazy exciting, I think. Onto the main card, Khalil Roundtree Jr. defeats Gokhan Saki by knockout in the first round. Crazy. I fancied Saki to win this fight, like most people, I think, but did not want to bet him because of what I saw in his last fight, and really glad I didn't. And he threw a lazy leg kick and got fucking timed to shit. I saw Luke Thomas saying in his post-fight that he's looking at Saki's physicality, his body, and he looked different. And I noticed that as he was coming in too. I know it's light heavy and dudes aren't always in supreme shape. They don't all look like Paulo Costa or fighters like that. But yeah, he didn't look very conditioned or yeah. So I don't know what's up with that. But Saki, who I think the UFC putting a bit of stock in, with like he won his first fight, but there was definitely problems for him there. And then this one, who knows what they'll do with him next. On to the next fight, which I had bet, and this is probably the bet I regret most, Chiesa versus Pettis. I put money on Chiesa when they were due to fight at the event earlier this year. I saw interviews with Duke Rufus talking about how Pettis had recommitted and blah blah blah. I don't really take too much heed of what coaches say about their fighters, because when they're talking to media, they're obviously gonna portray them in the most positive light possible. So I didn't buy into that. But after watching this fight, perhaps there is something to that. I'd banked on the fact that Pettis was on his way out and Chiesa was still ascending. But fuck, Chiesa's annoying. Just, I don't mean in terms of like losing a bet for me, but just I can't stand the dude. He seems like a prick. But I put money on him and I shouldn't have, and I lost it. So never mind. Next fight up, Perry versus Felder. So I wagered on Felder in this fight. I don't think that's a bad pick. I think Felder obviously broke his arm in the first round and hung in there and was still close. So it was a split decision. And I truly believe that had Felder not broken his arm, he would have won that fight. But great performance by both guys. Real hearty on Felder's part. And Perry looks much improved. So real excited about what we see from him in the future. Now working out at Jackson Wink, I believe. And also just an absolute delight to have Mike Perry around for fight week and watch his interviews, and I find that dude so interesting. He has a really interesting mind, and is so unfiltered. So yeah, love having Perry around. Next up, Derek Lewis versus Francis Ngannou. Fucking farcical. I was saying to a few people before the fight, I was like, this may be a staring contest, because you consider how Lewis usually fights, and then Ngannou coming off that loss, what he might try and do in this fight. And it was crazy. I at least expected him to pull the trigger in the third. I found it really weird. He ate some like big shots from Stipe and showed that he had a good chin, so I was confused as to why he seemed really hesitant to engage with Lewis. I thought he might bank on being able to eat a shot from Lewis and land his own, but super hesitant. Horrible fight. Don't want to discuss it too much longer, but so it was a bit unfair how Dana White went in on Ngannou and not Lewis. Like, I know he's got the back problem and whatnot, but you know, and I guess that's what does the future hold for Lewis? He's talked about retiring before after that Mark Hunt fight. Will he retire? Because it seems like if this keeps reoccurring, it's not really tenable for him to keep doing this for a career. In terms of matchups for those guys, I haven't lost faith in Ngannou. He's still early in his career. Another learning experience, perhaps, but fuck, that was weird. Either guy I would like to see get Tuivasa, because he will get a fight out of those guys. And I think he could beat either one of them too. And that would put him right up near the top. And we have a new situation at heavyweight, obviously. And it's an exciting time again, I think. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. Next up would have been Holloway Ortega, which is weird when you had that co-main event and you thought about the one we missed. I didn't like being too bothered with it. I was like, alright, we can get that fight down the line. We still got DC versus Cormier. Obviously, massive bummer, but not the end of the world, because the card was still so good. But then after Ngannou Lewis, you're kind of like, fuck, I wish we had that Ortega Holloway fight now. But we got to DC Stipe. I think anyone who's watched my videos or talked to me or followed me on Twitter knows that from when this fight was announced, my instincts told me DC. and I've not doubted that the whole time. I've had concerns, obviously, like Stipe's power is very concerning, and it appeared like it was concerning for DC too. Um, but yeah, just the whole way, I was like, DC's gonna win this. And then when odds came out and DC was a heavy underdog in it, and it kept moving, I was all in on DC. I was like, there's no way, like, you're never gonna get DC at odds like this again. Or maybe you would against Jones. Hard to say, but I don't think, probably not that far. And yeah, I was just all in. Reasons being, DC is battle tested. He's proved himself. He's faced the elite competition, and I don't think you could ever say the same for Stipe. A lot of people really, I thought people, the greatest heavyweight of all time title was thrust upon him very hastily. Of course, he got that record, but I think if you take a closer look at how he got that record, it doesn't really stand up. And I think now that will be revisited, and people probably won't consider him the greatest heavyweight of all time. And there may even be quite a few names they consider before his. I called him a fraud the other video, which some people took exception to, which is probably a bit strongly worded, but look what happened. I'm going to be a little cocky about this because I'm super happy about it. Yeah, I kind of, after the Ngannou fight and during that fight week and stuff, I kind of got a sour taste in my mouth about Stipe. He was whinging about not being promoted, and it's like, dude, how many times do we need to hear you're a fireman or watch you do terrible dad jokes? Like, you're just not interesting as a character, and for me personally, I'm not that excited to see you fight. Like, the reason that fight with Ngannou was big was because of Ngannou. Like, he brought all the questions to the table and the excitement. Stipe was like, yeah. And I've always felt that way about him. I know that's personal. Heaps of people seem to really like him, man. To me, I don't get it, but yeah, so I didn't like his whinging about not being promoted, when it's like, you're not very promotable, and if you fail to see that, then yeah, you can't be helped. But so I found heavyweight recently pretty fucking boring, so I'm glad there's a new champion. In regards to the fight, I think it's well documented and well talked about is DC's bad habits he has, and fuck, they were pronounced early on in that fight. So him dipping his head to his right hand side, he was doing it wildly, and he looked really concerned about Stipe's power to begin with. Then there was, Stipe got him against the fence and seemed to be controlling him pretty easily. He looked a lot stronger, and then I think he got him down too. DC got back up, and I remember, fuck, I was worried, super worried. But then I think in that moment where they against the clinch and DC got out, and I was like, fuck, even if Stipe wins this exchange or looks stronger, this is good. This is good for DC. Clinching, grappling, any of that, because I think Stipe will fade before DC does. And the fight didn't go long enough to get there, but I guess, so yeah, obviously knockout, not what I was expecting. I was expecting a longer fight and DC to win that way, to outlast him, but he ended up getting the knockout. But still, what happened was what I kind of banked on, and that was, when the pressure is on, I fancy DC over Stipe. I don't think Stipe has proved himself as much in like hard situations, whereas DC's done it time and time again. And that's what happened. And I think you saw, what was I going to say, sorry. Oh yeah, so like I was saying, DC appeared very tentative to begin with, and like was reacting horribly to Stipe's striking, and it was real concerning. But then once he ate a shot or two, you saw the fight completely change. DC was like, oh yeah, all good. Like, I can I can eat his shots, and then he started getting into range, landing that jab, left hook, and then fucking dropped him, and that was incredible. There's a video on like my Facebook and Twitter of my brother and I fucking like losing our minds when DC won that fight. Yeah, just so happy with that for many reasons, but because I put a big play on DC as well, and he was paying like $3.40, so fixed up all my unlucky and bad bets over the weekend, and I ended up over the weekend. So yeah, then I guess we got to talk about the Lesnar shit. I'm not particularly fond of that, and to me it seems staged. DC insists it's not, but he would insist it's not. Also, yeah, I don't like that shit, but I like the fight, and I guess that's part of the fight. That's part of DC getting fucking paid. So whatever, you know. I just thought that moment was going to be a bit more special, but it don't really matter, does it? Like the historic feat is achieved. There's going to be plenty of content of DC over the next week, talking to media and whatnot. I'm real, like, he gives the best insights in what it is to be a fighter and who he is. So I'm real excited about that happening this week. And yeah, in terms of fights for him, and he addressed it, and he talked about like the only fights he was really interested in are big fights, big paydays, and I think fair enough for him. He's put in so much work, he's achieved this, and he deserves that. And like, look at both divisions that he holds belts in. Like, who's a contender you really want to see him against? Like, I wouldn't mind Gustafsson at light heavy, but not a huge fight. I think the Lesnar fight, obviously a huge fight. Jones at heavyweight, huge fight, or light heavy, either one. But I'd like to see it at heavy. I'd like to see it on DC's terms, and I think you saw him saying that. He's like, I'm in charge now, and I'm calling the shots, which is real cool. I'd like to see him beat Lesnar, and then maybe the fight with Jones, but who knows if that'll happen. But I just really want to kind of see him ride off into the sunset with his belts. And like, no, if you want to see Blades versus Cormier, nah, I give a fuck less about that fight. I think heavyweight's been boring as fuck for ages. Stipe was boring champion. DC is an exciting champion. Him versus Lesnar is an exciting fight, big fight. I want to see a bit of that shit, which is weird because, you know, in other divisions and stuff, I want to see the rightful contenders fight the champion, like Ortega and Holloway. But in this case, I'm really willing to waver on that and just watch ridiculous fights like him versus Lesnar. I'd love to see him beat the shit out of Lesnar as well. Fucking can't stand that prick. So yeah, that's that. I can't read the time because it's real. Oh yeah, if I do that I can. So we're nearly at 40 minutes. Yeah, that's about it for this week. UFC Boise coming up next week, obviously. Fuck, I haven't even really looked at that at all, but I'm hoping to get some big spots. I'm gonna reel it in a little bit and maybe limit myself to 3 straight picks and a couple of parlays. We'll see what happens. So I may be back later in the week with another video. We shall see. I will endeavour to do that. Thank you. I said I might go into comments, but I think I'll just flag it for today. If people do want me to do that, holla, let me know, because I kind of enjoy doing the comments thing. Actually, I'll just have a little look, see if there's some things worth talking about in there. There may well not be, because it's all happened already. Bear with me. Just looking quickly, Justin. DC is going to get KO'd in the first or second. He has never fought someone with Stipe's power and range. Stipe is strong enough to nullify DC's wrestling. I said power maybe, range no. Jones is a longer and much better striker than Stipe. Like, people talking about he's never had to fight someone with that range. Jones has longer range than Stipe and uses it. Stipe doesn't really use his range that much. Oh, nice one from that one kid. Hey man, just want to say you're really underrated predictor. Appreciate the time with the videos and look forward to your work. Always keep up the great work, man. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Uh, yeah, it's all in regards to last week. So never mind. I'll wrap it up here. Should be back later in the week with my Boise picks. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Do truly appreciate it. And I shall see you soon.